誰このバナナ食べてみようとは思わない。
なんかね、ゲルバナはデロデロでブニュブニュだったよ。味もないし。
あなたのバナナ、ブニュブニュだねって言ってみて。
あなたのバナナブニュブニュ。
What if I told you an anime about microwaves and bananas actually plays with real-world physics and mind-bending mathematics? Steins Gate isn't just a sci-fi masterpiece. It's a time travel thriller grounded in logic, probability, and the fragile mathematics of causality. In a world where a single text can destroy the future, Steins Gate dares to ask, can we outsmart time itself? You don't need to be Einstein or a quantum physicist to get this. In fact, today I'm going to explain how Steins Gate works using math so simple, even a 5-year-old could understand the ideas behind it. We're going to unpack how Steins Gate uses world lines to represent possible realities, applies divergence numbers as a mathematical compass, explores attractor fields to explain fate, leverages chaos theory, entropy, and even game theory to build a story, and finally becomes a mathematical love letter to time because here's the deal. This anime doesn't just throw in random sci-fi words like world lines and divergence to sound smart. It builds its entire story on logical, mathematical concepts like chaos theory, probability, and something called attractor fields. While it's not a physics textbook, it respects its science enough to create a believable illusion, and that's what makes its math resonate. And once you start to understand these ideas, even just a little, you'll realize Steins Gate isn't just a great anime. It's a genius-level story hiding complex science in plain sight. An anime that uses actual mathematical concepts to create one of the most intelligent anime narratives ever written. Now let's break it down. Let's start with the heart of Steins Gate, world lines. Think of a world line as a path your life could take. Right now, you're watching this video. That's one path. But what if you decided to stop this video and watch cat videos instead? That's a different path. Every time you make a decision, it's like turning at a fork in the road. The world splits, not literally but hypothetically, into two timelines. One where you chose A, and another where you chose B. These paths are what we call world lines in science fiction, and sometimes in actual physics. In real science, a world line is the path that an object traces through space and time. For a person, it's your life story, where you were and when. In Steins Gate, each decision point causes a branch in time, a new world line. It's like a giant tree of infinite timelines. You're on one branch, but others exist, ones where you made different choices. Imagine it like this: you're playing a video game. Every time you make a choice, talk to a different character, skip a side quest, pick a weapon, it changes how the story plays out. The game still has the same characters and setting, but the path changes. That's how world lines work. Now this might sound like parallel universes, and you'd be right to make that connection. The many worlds interpretation in quantum mechanics suggests that all possible outcomes of quantum events actually happen in separate parallel realities. So when Okabe sends a D-mail, a message to the past, he's not changing the past of his current timeline. He's jumping to a different timeline, a different world line, where that message was received. To him, it feels like he's changed the world. But technically, he's left his current one and arrived in another. The timeline he leaves keeps going, but he can't return unless he knows how to retrace his steps mathematically. In the world of Steins Gate, the universe isn't a chaotic multiverse where everything happens at once. Instead, it follows a strict deterministic model. There's only one active world line at any given moment. All the other world lines exist only as possibilities, not actualized, not real, until something causes a shift. So rather than jumping across coexisting realities, the universe collapses all potential outcomes into one observable path. Each time Okabe jumps, the world changes. In one, Mayuri lives. In another, she dies. But only Okabe remembers both. This is called his reading Steiner ability, a metaphor for being conscious across multiple world lines. It's not explained scientifically in the anime, but we can relate it to reference frames in physics. A reference frame is basically your point of view in time and space. Imagine you're on a train. From your seat, it looks like the world is moving past you. But from someone on the ground, you're the one moving. In Steins Gate, each world line is like a different train. Most people only know the one they're on, but Okabe can see all the trains. He remembers being on all of them. This gives him a kind of meta perspective, a unique reference frame across time. It's like remembering dreams from parallel universes. That makes him incredibly powerful, but also incredibly burdened. Because every time he jumps, he carries the pain of all timelines. Everyone else gets to forget. Steins Gate doesn't just use world lines as cool sci-fi. It uses them to create the structure of the story, and the structure of the soul to ask, what if the pain of choice had weight? Every time Okabe shifts to a different world line, a number appears. A small decimal, like 0.57102, 4% or 1.048596%. This is the divergence number. At first glance, it looks random, but this number is everything. It's the mathematical coordinate of a world line, and understanding it is the key to navigating this web of timelines. What does the number mean? Let's say the baseline world line, the original timeline, is 0.000000%. That's your starting point. Now, when Okabe sends a D-mail, the world shifts slightly. That creates a new timeline. The divergence number tells us how far that new world line is from the original one. If it's 0.000001%, it's barely changed. If it's 0.5%, something major has changed, like who dies and who lives. If it crosses 1.0%, you've entered a whole new realm of possibility, the Steins Gate world line. So this small number, it's not just a statistic, it's a compass. It tells Okabe whether he's getting closer or further away from saving the people he loves. Let's say you're walking in a dense fog with only a compass and GPS coordinates. You're trying to reach a safe house at location 1.000000%. Every wrong turn might take you to 0.499984%. or 0.841226%. You don't know the full map. You only see the number. That's Okabe's life. Each D-mail he sends is a gamble, a small nudge in time, and he watches the divergence number like a heartbeat monitor, hoping it ticks in the right direction. These tiny changes are rooted in chaos theory, a branch of mathematics that studies how small differences in initial conditions can lead to vastly different outcomes. It's the butterfly effect. The idea that a butterfly flapping its wings in Brazil could cause a tornado in Texas. In Steins Gate, a short message to the past, just a few characters, can mean the difference between Mayuri living or dying. Divergence numbers turn this abstract idea into something concrete. They put math into emotion, logic into longing, and just like that, the decimal becomes dramatic. Now here's where it gets spooky and genius. Attractor fields. Let's say you change the past over and over again, but the same thing keeps happening. No matter what Okabe does, Mayuri dies again and again. Different places, different ways, but the same result. Why? That's because some events are attractors. They're like gravity wells in time. No matter how much you jump around world lines, you keep getting pulled toward the same outcome. This is what the anime calls an attractor field. Here's how to imagine it. Take a ball and drop it into a bowl. You can roll it to the left or right, but eventually it settles in the center. That center is the attractor. The system wants to go there. In math, this comes from chaos theory. Even in messy, unpredictable systems, patterns can form. These patterns are called strange attractors. So in Steins Gate, even though Okabe changes the timeline, the system keeps pulling things back to Mayuri's death. It's like the universe is saying, you can't avoid this. It has to happen. The only way to escape that pull, you need a big enough change, a big enough divergence, that throws you into a whole new attractor field. And that's what the Steins Gate world line is, a different bowl. One where Mayuri lives and Kurisu survives. But reaching it means beating fate itself, a war against statistical gravity. You've heard the phrase, a butterfly flaps its wings and causes a hurricane on the other side of the world, which I had mentioned earlier as well. That's chaos theory, the study of how small changes in a system can lead to wildly different outcomes. Mathematically, this is often shown through nonlinear equations where slight variations in input create huge shifts in output. Steins Gate takes this idea and runs with it. When Okabe sends a single text message into the past, the world changes. Slightly at first, but eventually it veers into completely different timelines. Mayuri lives, then she dies. Kurisu survives, then she doesn't. Every tiny change in the past creates a butterfly effect across world lines. This is chaos theory in action. The anime visualizes it using divergence numbers, small decimal shifts that reflect how far a world line has drifted from the original. Time isn't a straight line here, it's a fragile web of probabilities. Every time Okabe leaps through time, he pays a price. You can't just change the past without consequences. The more Okabe tries to force a clean outcome, the more the world resists. That's why the same tragedies keep happening. No matter how many loops he makes, it gets even messier. In physics, systems naturally move from order to chaos, which is what we call entropy. Every time Okabe changes time, the world becomes a little messier. The more he changes, the more entropy builds up. He has to predict how each move in the past will impact the future. Every D-mail he sends changes someone's timeline. Every action helps one person but hurts another. And in the end, his greatest move isn't to fight time, but to fool himself. But to do so, he must do something extraordinary. Create a new timeline where both Mayuri and Kurisu live. Make his past self believe that Kurisu has died, to preserve the divergence event. Lie to himself to save everyone else. Let's pause here. This moment is mathematically brilliant, because Okabe is creating a new solution. A divergence event that satisfies all boundary conditions without collapsing the system. In other words, he doesn't break the rules of time. He solves them. Here's the truth. Every math problem is built on assumptions. In Steins Gate, the assumption was always that someone had to die. But Okabe challenges that. He looks at time itself and says, what if I'm wrong? What if there's a way? And so he rewrites the system. He treats time as a vast equation. Each loop, each decision, each variable changes the outcome. What makes it so special isn't just the time travel. It's how the author respects the mathematics of time. How he crafts a narrative where every concept, chaos theory, converging world lines, boundary conditions, divergence numbers, isn't just referenced, it's lived. The entirety of the story revolves around Okabe being trapped in a system of nonlinear equations, with variables he can't fully control like the D-mails, time leaps, and choices he makes. Each message or decision changes something in the past, altering someone's fate in ways he can't fully predict. The system is sensitive to initial conditions, meaning even the smallest input can cause a cascade of new outcomes. It's why saving Mayuri results in Kurisu's death, and vice versa, with constants that keep dying like Mayuri, whose death is a fixed point in multiple world lines. No matter how many times Okabe loops, she keeps dying, like a constant in the equation that refuses to change. The same happens when trying to save Kurisu later. These people become constants in the tragedy the system keeps returning to, and outcomes that collapse into attractor states no matter how many times he iterates. Like in the alpha attractor field, Mayuri always dies. In the beta attractor field, Kurisu always dies. Every timeline he jumps to is an attempt to satisfy a boundary condition. Can I save her without losing someone else? He's not erasing the past. He's finding the one path, the solution set where all variables align, where the system is in equilibrium and the outcome is finally stable. That's what makes this story feel so mathematical. It isn't random. It's a carefully constructed phase space where every world line is a point in the set. And Okabe, he's navigating that space like a function looking for its convergence. And somehow, through all this rigor and logic, the author manages to do something profound. He uses real science to tell a fictional story. A story of time that holds Okabe accountable for every solution he proposes. And still, he keeps solving, until finally, through recursive failure, he finds the one elegant solution. A single point in the chaotic field of possibility where all outcomes harmonize, where all the math lines up, and the equation resolves. That's Steins Gate, a story written like a theorem, solved like a paradox, not just a narrative, but a mathematical love letter to time, from an author who didn't just want to entertain us. And that's the beauty of it.
I am math scientist. It's so cool. Son of a bitch.
Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because if I don't hit the algorithm's divergence point, this timeline might collapse. And seriously, subscribing takes less time than Okabe takes to scream,
Add, beside, a kangaroo.
Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next world line.